Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. What are you celebrating today? I don't know where you are, but here in New York, it feels like winter. It is actually 50 degrees out. We had a fire in the fireplace today. But again, what are you celebrating? This show is about celebrating artists and their body of worth. What makes a great artist? How do they get from point A to point B and beyond? And boy, do we have a great artist tonight. There are certain actors and actresses, and when word gets out they have a new Broadway show or a new movie or a new TV show, everyone rushes to see it. It's the same thing with a great singer and a new album coming out. And tonight, we've got a lot of celebrating to do, because not only are we celebrating Freda Payne, but we are celebrating her latest CD, Let There Be Love. And what better time than now to be celebrating that? So I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the CD, and on the other side, or album, and then on the other side, you will meet Freda Payne. Here she is.
I'm alone and crying the blues. I'm so tired of paying the dues. Everybody knows I'm moaning. Lord, I spend many a days and nights alone with my grief. I'm doing away.
I did that up and this, get up and don't know. Trouble on bum bum.
She could be by my double, don't you have to eat bad up the door. Sweet boom, but we do ya bop, but we
many a days and nights alone with my grief.
And I pray, really and truly pray, somebody will come and bring me relief. And I really could use a little relief. Day and night I do.
Doodling away, everybody knows I'm on.
The way you hold your knife,
the way we dance till three,
the way you changed my life. No, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me. The way you wear your hat,
oh really?
the way you sip your tea,
Johnny, I do love a good cup of tea.
the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me.
The way you smile just beams.
Well, thank you very much.
The way you sing off key. The way you haunt my dreams.
The way you haunt my dreams. No, they can't take that away from me.
We might never meet again. Oh, Johnny, on that bumpy road to love.
Still I'll always
Booga, 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 booga.
Booga, booga, day, boo ba doo ba doo day, ba doo ya da boo ba doo ba doo boo.
Me go.
But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the rockets
May crumble,
Gibraltar,
it may tumble.
they're only made of clay, but
Our love is here to stay.
let there be you, let there be me, let there be oysters under the sea.
Let there be wind, occasional rain, chili con carne, sparkling champagne. But
First of all, please, let there be love. Let there be birds to sing in the trees. Someone to bless me whenever I sleep. Let there be cuckoos on the hug and a dove. But first of all, please, let there be love. Let there be love. Let there be love. It's the wrong game with the wrong chips. Though your lips are very, very tempting, they're the wrong lips. They're not his lips, but they're such tempting lips that if some night you're free, because it's alright, yeah, it's alright, it's alright with me, alright baby, alright with me. Keep my bow, shut up and better yabba, and up, and boo yada boo ba deja baba skip it up ba you do boo ba boo 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 yada boo yada boo yada day oh it's all right with me.
Yeah.
Freda, I am telling you that if everyone in the world began every day with this CD, there would be no strife in this world.
Oh,
No, first of all, I am so thrilled that you are here tonight. We are getting a little bit of a feedback, so you may need to turn your speakers down just a hair.
okay.
I want to put things in perspective with where we are right now.
Now I can't hear you.
You went too low.
Oh, when I went too low. Now I can't hear you.
Can you
What did
hear
I
me
do?
now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, but I am getting still a little bit of a feedback. Well, it went. So maybe
Let me
whatever.
see. Oh, it's gone? It's
Yes,
gone?
I think so. Thank
Okay.
you. But I want to put things in perspective with where we are right now. We have been for the past year and a little longer than a year going through a pandemic. Today marks 441 days since our theaters shut down. And I want to ask, how are you doing really in the midst of all of this?
I am, well, actually, it was a year ago, last March, I did a gig, a job rather. I had a concert at a performing arts center in Decatur, Georgia. And I really thought it was going to get canceled. As a matter of fact, when I called them, I said, are we still going to do the show? Because I'm in LA, I'm in Encino. And they said, oh, by all means, you better get on that plane. And so I did the show. And this was the 12th. Let's see, it was the 12th or the 13th.
March. Yes.
The 12th of March. And then on the 13th, was the 13th? Did the 13th fall on a Sunday?
The 12th, I think. Well, I don't remember.
Oh, no. The gig was on the 13th. I'm sorry. I traveled on the 12th. The gig was on the 13th. I did the show. And then the next day I drove to a friend of mine. She's a singer herself, an R&B singer. Her name is Candy Staten.
Okay.
And she was celebrating her birthday. And I went there. She invited me. And then from there, they drove me to the airport and I flew home on the 14th. I was on the 14th. And when I got home, people on the plane, not everybody, by the way, it was scattered. The seat I was sitting in, there was a young man sitting next to me and he had a mask on and he had on gloves. I had my mask on and I had gloves and I took a little spray bottle of alcohol and I sprayed all over, on the armrest and all over and the trays and all that. Anyway, but not just a few people had on masks. By the time I got home, and then by Monday, which would have been the 15th, that's when everything sort of like shut down. That's when everything really got to be real. And then I heard on the news that Broadway has shut down and closed. My heart sank because I have never known that to ever happen. Not in my lifetime.
No. Well, I live in New York.
Yeah, in New York. And like they say, the old saying, the show must go on no matter what happens. Well, the show didn't go on. And my heart sank because my heart went out to all those people, the kids, all the actors, dancers, singers, musicians, the crews, all the crew people, the makeup people, the hair people, the wardrobe people, anybody that's got anything to do with the theater, the ticket sellers, the waiters, the ushers. And I said, and then it went on so long. I thought at that point, and Trump was saying, oh, this is going to be over. It's going to blow up. It's going to just disappear. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, there are a lot of things that he said.
Oh, okay.
That's another show.
And so it didn't disappear. And I kept thinking, now, even though we were entitled, I say the kids out and the people in you could apply for unemployment compensation. And if it weren't for that, oh my God, I don't know. And even with that for something being with New York and how expensive it is to live in New York. And a lot of those kids who are doing Broadway shows, that they're living in an apartment, they're paying rent, they're not they don't own, most of them don't,
Right.
and right. It's like, it's expensive to live in New York. So, and I understand, I hear tell that a lot of people moved out of New York because of all that. After a while, they couldn't do it. They had to go back home or move someplace else temporarily where the living expenses were really low. Now, let's get back to me.
Yes.
I have to say, being a senior citizen helped me. Being a senior, I'll tell you why. I did also apply for the unemployment thing, which was a great help. But I get Social Security. I get pension from Actors Equity and from AFTRA, SAG. So I had that a little bit of extra help. And I was able to get, and then occasionally in the mail, I would get like a royalty check or a residual check. Of course, the residual check I think I got a residual check. One was for like 23 cents
You're doing
from,
great.
from Universal. And then again, sometimes, and you get sound exchange, which is for the recording people when your songs are played on the air. And I get a little something like every quarter. But it was like, I'll put it this way. I wasn't starving
Mhm.
and I wasn't like, in the doghouse. I'll put it. The wolf was not really at the door, but I'm an artist. I'm a performer. I'd rather be out there doing a gig, being, working somewhere, you know. That's where I got to be. I got really bored. And but the only thing that kept me from really, going through it, getting depressed, because my sister said she went through a lot of depression. Uh, what kept me was that I'm working on my book with Mark Bigo, who is my co-writer, working with me on my book. And we were like on the phone. He lives in Tucson. I'm here in California. And we would be almost every day or every other day, we'd be on the phone, writing the book. So this gave me an opportunity to settle down and just deal with that. Would give me something to do. At least I got that going on during the daylight hours. And last June, which was still in the pandemic,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had knee replacement surgery. So I felt when I got the surgery for the first 2 to 3 months, I felt like, what the hell? Nobody's doing anything anyway. So,
The perfect time to do this.
you know,
I'm so glad that you brought up your memoirs, the fact that you're writing this book. I know I can speak for not only myself, but so many fans that are so excited. But I want to ask you, why now have you decided to write the book? Did the pandemic precipitate that? Or was
had nothing to do with it.
it had nothing to do with it? Great.
No, I'll tell you what, I've been sort of procrastinating for years. I should have done this book 20 years ago. I mean, or 25 years ago. I should be working on my second book if you want to know the truth.
Hmm.
But I said, you know what? Everybody's writing a book. A lot of my friends have written books about their memoirs, and I said, you know what? I better hurry up and get this thing done before my memory goes. You know, I mean, not that some of it's gone already, but at least I
Oh,
can remember
don't
some
go
stuff.
there.
And see, I never kept a diary. I never kept a diary or any kind of a manual or depicting my life and talking about things that happen. I just never did that. I guess it's something that I just wanted to kind of like keep secret
Hmm.
and not to have somebody discover it and say, look what I found. You know.
Well, let me ask you, when you're writing a memoir, are you writing in a linear fashion or are you writing memories as they are coming back to you?
Here's what happened, especially with working with Mark. I would dictate to him, like, and he would tape it. Different parts. We start from the beginning, from Detroit. From when I was a kid. What kind of childhood did I have? Blah 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 blah. And then we move on through the years. The '60s, I moved to New York. Blah blah blah. This happened. Then the '70s, and that kind of stuff. And we would he would I would dictate it. He would transcribe it, and then he would email it to me. And this happened over months and months and months. And then I would read it, and of course there were lots of mistakes. There was misspell, stuff like that, or a misquote that he got turned around.
Hmm.
And I said, no, it's not like that. You got to put it like this. And then we did this we're on our third time. I think we're on our third time doing this. But every time we do it, another thought or memory comes back. And I say, you know what, Mark, hold the pen right now. I want to insert this. And then I tell him another story that was associated with that event or that time period. And I said, this needs to be in there. So then that's how it happens.
And
It's a process.
how did you and Mark I'm very interested in the process. How did you and Mark come together to do this?
Well, Mark, first of all, Mark is a very close friend and associate of my dear lost friend, Mary Wilson,
Oh, wow.
who just passed away recently. And it was so unexpected.
Mhm.
And it's still unbelievable to me because she was so vibrant and beautiful and healthy looking. And she just, her heart just stopped beating. It's just one of those things where you say, why? And anyway, I met Mark because of Mary, because they would always be together. They'd go to to the Kentucky Derby. They'd send pictures of them together, looking like Mr. and Mrs. or, like they could be on the cover of Q magazine or Vogue. And because Mary was very fashionable, and then Mark was right up there with her, with his wonderful dinner jackets or brocade jackets, those beautiful blazers he wore.
Mhm.
And he's also a writer. He's a writer. He had written, by the way, he co-wrote Mary's last book, which was a tabletop book. It was
Supreme
called
Style.
Supreme Glamour.
Supreme Glamour, yes.
Yeah, yeah, Supreme Glamour. I have it,
It's a
and
beautiful book.
of course, I've got it. And he's written about over 50 books. So he did one on Elton John. He's got, you can check him out. But anyway, I asked Mark, and I said, you know what, Mark, would you be interested in, writing a book with me, my memoirs? He said, of course. And that's how that happened.
That's wonderful. I want to go back. You're originally from Detroit, but when I was looking back over your life and career, if I get anything wrong, please forgive me. At
Okay.
17, you were picked by Duke Ellington to sing with the Duke Ellington band, the
Yes.
orchestra, and so music was always a part of your life. This latest CD, or do you still refer to them as albums?
Yes, both.
Yes.
Because first of all, it is a CD. It's an EP CD,
Mhm.
and it is an album. Yeah.
This is your 27th album?
I wouldn't go that far. I'd say about 24, 25 altogether.
So you
Yeah.
sang with the Duke Ellington Orchestra, and you also toured with Pearl Bailey.
I did at the age of 17. At the age of 17, that was my first professional job on the road. I had been paid as a professional before that, like in Detroit. But that was my first professional job going out of town on the road.
And your
Mhm.
love of music was jazz music, which we are going to talk about in a few moments. But when you decided to go on the road, did you have a chaperone? Did your mom travel with you? What was the setup with all of that?
Well, this was with Pearl. With Pearl, they designated me to room with a lady. Oh God, I forgot her name. But anyway, this was she was like about 50 and I'm 17. So we would get a room together, like, double room, so that she became my chaperone. Sort of literally. Yeah. hmm Now, the reason why Duke Ellington offered me a 10-year contract when I was 17.
Wow.
And the reason why that was not ever consummated is that he didn't want to change anything in the contract. And also, my mother would have definitely had to go on the road with me,
Mhm.
with all those old men.
Did you like being on the road at 17 years old? I mean,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought I enjoyed it because it's sort of like, can I tell you that this is a part of my heart? I always felt like if I could go back and do it again, I think I would have gone to college, and that would have been Juilliard, because I could have gone there. I had the opportunity, but I think I got a little squeamish, a little scared. I said, oh, I may not be good enough. I may not do well, blah, 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 blah. And what it was is that Duke's son, Mercer Ellington, was on the board of Juilliard. He had some influence.
Mhm.
And also, he also, he was also offering I could stay with someone that he knew, um, you know, in the theater world. And so it was almost like, here, you can do this. We'll pave the way for you. But I never pursued it because I felt like, oh, I don't know. You know, I was a little squeamish about it. But in the meantime, I felt like, hey, I'm on the road already. I'm working, you
You
know,
are
because right
working.
after,
That's the
yeah,
important thing.
things were happening. So I felt like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. But if I were able to do it again, I would definitely go.
And how did the connection with Pro Bailey happen?
That happened because Pearl Bailey had a review, the Pearl Bailey Review.
Mhm.
They were in town and they were performing at a theater in Detroit. I think it was the Riviera Theater. And what happened was, one of her background singers, I don't know whether she was fired by Pearl or she just quit or to get another job to do something better. But anyway, we had a neighbor who was a very prominent attorney in Detroit, and he was very close friends with my parents. And he was at a cocktail party where he met Pearl's uh, road manager, and that was a guy by the name of Bob Bailey. Bob Bailey was a resident of Las Vegas, and he was on the road with Pearl, you know, as her road manager, and his wife Ann Bailey was one of the chorus girls in the show as well.
Mhm.
And and so Alan Early Jr. He was at the cocktail party, and he met Mercer, and he started telling Mercer about me. And Mercer just happened to relate to him that they were looking for somebody a replacement for Pearl.
Sure.
And he said, well, if you'd be so inclined, maybe she can come down and audition for Pearl's Review as the background singer. And I found out they were looking for somebody who was like more alto, like an alto type singer, and I or mezzo soprano alto, between those two, and I fit that bill.
Mhm.
So I auditioned, and I went down there, and there were other people. There were several people down there. I was the only, at that time, amateur there. And oops,
That's
hold
Pearl
on.
Bailey calling now.
That's Pearl calling me. I'll call them back. But anyway, um, anyway, I auditioned, and it was a double audition. It was an audition for Pearl to travel on her road on her review, and they were looking for dancers for Las Vegas for the Moulin Rouge. The Moulin Rouge was the only black-owned casino at that time. We're talking like 1961. The
Wow.
Civil Rights Bill hadn't even been signed. Okay, and
Wow.
they were looking for chorus girls for the Moulin Rouge. So I danced. They said, yes, we want you. And I sang, and they said, you got the job. 2 days later, I was on the bus.
So you had dance training as well at this point.
Oh, yeah, I had ballet and I had modern dancing. Ballet and modern dancing.
Now, when you auditioned for Pearl Bailey's Review, was she hands-on as far as who she picked to be in the show?
Well, I guess because it was Bob. It was Bob, and who else was there? I don't think she was at the audition watching us, but she approved. I guess she trusted Bob Bailey implicitly, because he was, first of all, he was a heck of a guy, and he was like he had a really good head on him, on his shoulders, and he was very bright. I think at one point he became one of the councilmen in Las Vegas. I think he ran for office and all that. So um,
And
Bob Bailey.
how much time you left 2 days later to go on the road? How much time did you have to actually rehearse before you went on that first night?
Well, as I remember, I think I just learned. I think I picked it up. I mean, of course, they had somebody coaching me, and somebody going over the script, and the songs, and it was mostly. And then I was a sight reader. Oh, I forgot to tell you. See, I was a sight reader because back then they had music courses in public schools.
Mhm.
And so I learned a lot about, like, my music, the elementary rudiments of music in school. And I had taken piano lessons for 7 years, from the time I was like about I started when I was like 6 or 7 years old with piano lessons. And that's what happened. So I was able to sight read, which helped a lot.
Well, of course it did. And
Yeah.
what are some of the life lessons that you learned from Pro Bailey that instilled you not only as a human being, but as an artist working with such a great star such as her?
Discipline and listening. And like, for instance, it was the first time, like, be in the theater by half hour. And I knew I had to be in the theater by half hour, a little before half hour, actually. And she had certain quirks and rules that you don't normally experience in any show I've ever done. And that is when somebody tells you, oh, I'm using Chanel No. 5 perfume. This is my the toilet water, the perfume. Oh no, you can't, darling. You have to use Replique by Jean Rivienne. And I said, Replique. She says, that's what I wear. And I don't want a conglomeration of other scents backstage.
That's amazing.
Well, honey, I said, girl, well, you better. And she was like that. It was that. And here's another quirk of hers. I had to wear the same color, the same shade of makeup that she wore.
Wow.
Now, for any of us who remember, I'm not, this is not a race. This is like not racial, but it's everybody with Black people of color, and the African American, we are of different shades. You have like dark chocolate, you have milk chocolate, you have caramel, and then you have this lighter and lighter to almost as white as you, okay, or as white as you. Some Black people, and that wasn't my shade, and it was Max Factor pancake makeup, Max Factor, and I remember the pancake makeup. And sorry, let me need a sip of water.
Was it grease paint that you were wearing at that time?
No, it wasn't grease paint.
It was regular Max Factor makeup.
Yeah. And we had to use the little sponge, and you had to wet it with a glycerin and rose water. And they don't eat, that's gone now. That's like ancient. That's old time. But it was, I think, Pancro number 27. And I remember putting that on, and I said, oh God, it's so red on me. It was like really dark, and it was red, but that was her shade. And I said, why does she want us to wear this? And there was one white girl, there was two white people in the chorus, in the background singers. There was a guy, and then there was a lady, a girl, and she had to wear it too. Now she really looked ridiculous.
Well, it's funny because years later, when she did the national tour of Hello Dolly with Billie Daniels, she wanted women, maybe she had evolved at this point, but she wanted African-American women from all different shades because she referred to it as her flower garden.
Well, that's Pearl.
That was Pearl.
That's Pearl.
How long did you travel with her?
It wasn't about, let me see, we went to Cincinnati, and then it was short. It was Cincinnati, and then the Apollo in New York, in Harlem, and then the Howard Theater in DC.
Now, when you made your way to New York, did you decide to stay at that point, or did you come back to New York at a later time?
Oh, I came back to New York at a later time, but it wasn't that much later. It was like about a year later, because I moved to New York when I was 18, a year later.
And how did that transition happen? Did you know anyone in New York? When you first got to New York, everybody wants you tonight.
Just tell her I'll call her back. Yeah, everybody wants me in New York.
That's right.
Well, I didn't know that many people hardly. I actually was going to stay at the YWCA, and mind you, I was by myself, no chaperone. And what happened was, I met a girl at the airport, and I was with my parents in Detroit, and we were at the airport sitting at the gate. They were, waiting for the, plane and all like that, so they could give me their last hug. And I met this girl. Her name was Beverly Davenport, and she recognized me, and she says, "Oh, Freda," she says, are you going to New York? I said, you're on this flight. I said, yes. She said, well, I'm going too. She says, I live there now, but this is my home, but I'm living in New York now. And I got a job at Pacific Bell. And she said, where are you staying? I said, well, I think I'm gonna check in at the YWCA. She says, well, I have an apartment up on 103rd between Amsterdam and Broadway. And she says, if you want, we could share an apartment together. And she was like she was very intelligent, very smart. And she seemed like a very godly person, nice person. And my parents met her too as well. So we on the plane, we sat together. And by the time we got to New York, I went right to her apartment. And I stayed with her for like I would say about maybe 4 or 5 months, something like that. I don't think it lasted a year because that apartment was small.
I'm sure it was.
Was one of those, like in New York, and the closet space, in New York, the closet space was like,
Some people have a closet and they feel they're in a suite. That's how small they are. But
I know.
how long did it take you to get acclimated to living in New York? New York has a vibe and a life its own.
I know. And back then, it was a whole nother animal. Like back then, there was only 3 TV channels, so it wasn't like I could just stay in the apartment and watch TV if I wanted to, if there was nothing to do. I went up just to get out, every day. I went out every night, and I started going to a little club. It was like a little piano bar, and it was in I believe the 40s downtown, and it was called the Champagne Colony. Now, some people might remember it. I mean, those who were around during that era, which was 1961. And I'll tell you who I met there. People hung out there like Johnny Nash, Luther Dixon of Scepter Records, songwriter, producer, and other people of that sort, people in the business. And it was a guy that played the piano, and then I would sing and somebody else would sing, or Johnny would sing, and that was what was going on. And then I met a guy that turned out he's the guy that heard me sing and everything. And he said, you know what, you need an agent so you can work. He said, how are you paying your bills? I said, my parents send me money, Western Union.
Thank you, parents. Thank you.
Honey, see, I had that. I was blessed. My parents, I always had to call home and say, Mom, I need some more money. I'm running out, And my mother would just send me exactly what I asked for. My father always sent me a little bit more.
Great. Good for them. And did he become your agent?
This guy, his name was Carl Carruthers, and he was not my agent. He worked for Nat King Cole. Wow. He was one of the guys, I think, his road manager for Nat King Cole. And he walked me into GAC, which was one of the major agencies back then. And he introduced me to Sidney Bernstein. And Sidney
God, yes, absolutely.
And Sidney Bernstein became my first legitimate agent.
Now, was he responsible for getting you to Broadway? And did you get your equity card with your first Broadway show?
Yeah, my first, but it wasn't with Sidney Bernstein. Mm-hmm. What happened was, okay, let's speed up. We're going to speed up now to 1967. I signed with an agency called Agency for the Performing Arts, APA. Mm-hmm. David Baumgarten was the president and CEO of APA. And he took me under his wing. And then what happened was, by this time I had another roommate. I'd moved on from Beverly. I had another roommate. And this roommate she was a dancer. She's not with us anymore, Sandra McPherson. That's her name, Sandra. Now, Sandra was a wonderful dancer. She did a lot of Broadway shows. And also she was in a nightclub act as well. Tommy Johnson, it was Tommy Johnson and it was Sandy and another girl. And they did like like they would work in nightclubs and supper clubs and theaters and stuff like that as a dance act. So anyway, Sandy had become a member of the Broadway show Hallelujah Baby with Leslie Uggams and Robert Hooks and Alan Case. And Sandy would tell me, you know what, Freda, they're looking for somebody, another understudy for Leslie, because the understudy who's there now, who is Emily Yancey.
Oh my God.
You know Emily?
Yes, I do. I've interviewed Emily.
Well, Emily was Leslie's understudy first, and she had, I guess, booked Hello Dolly with Pearl Bailey and Cab Calloway.
Yes.
And she was leaving, so they put out the word they were looking to audition for another understudy. So I auditioned, and the first time I auditioned, I didn't get it because they loved my singing, but it was like, I guess maybe I wasn't reading my lines right or something like that. I wasn't. So I won't say who the woman was that they hired, but anyway, after 2 or 3 weeks went by, they asked her to go on. It was a test. And when she went on, by the time they got to the intermission, they called Leslie back to finish the show. And you know how Broadway is, honey. They're cold-blooded. You know, they'll have somebody there sitting in the audience looking at you because they might be the next replacement, you know? So they put out the word again. They called me back. They wanted to see me again. So what happened, Sandy knew Billie D. Williams, and she said, I'm going to ask Billie to come up and read with you before you audition this time, because you're going to get it. Billie came up to our apartment, and he read with me, and he just gave me some tips, you know. And he read, and I went and auditioned the next day, and I got hired. And that's when Bruce Savan was my agent. He was the theatrical agent at APA, and that's when I had to join. That's when I had to join Equity. So I joined Equity back then in 1967.
And do you need to get that?
No, somebody got it for me.
Okay. When was the first time that you actually went on in Hallelujah Baby? And what was that experience like for you standing on a Broadway stage? Were you able to enjoy yourself, or was it an out-of-body experience for you?
I had, first of all, once I was hired, it was 3 weeks exactly before they called me to say, they gave me like a 5 or 6 day warning before I went on. And so I was thoroughly prepared. It was enough time. I'd gotten all the lines, under my belt. So that the warning was so that I had days to learn the blocking, the costume changing, and all this. Because in that part in Hallelujah Baby, Georgina Johnson, she's the first person you see on stage, and she's the last person you see at the end of the show, at the end of the curtain, when the curtain goes down. So I'm almost on that stage almost all the time, except to change to another outfit. And it was an out-of-body experience. It was like, I remember, I felt like I owned the world. And back then, that's when they had the full orchestra in the pit. You know, the band and the strings. Oh yeah, it was great. Oh, and the first time when I went on that first night, I got a standing ovation.
Of course you did. That does not surprise me.
And I went on 5 times after that. Spaced out, because I think Leslie, she was having little minor things going on, and said she had to clear up, but it gave me the opportunity, because some understudies never get to go on.
That's true. Well, I want to ask you, your career is going down a certain path, and then all of a sudden, as we all know, your career went in a completely different direction. Had you envisioned or thought out the career path that you wanted to be on? Obviously, you want to be a singer, and you are a singer. But did you find that you were going in the direction that you thought you would be going in? Or did you always, in the back of your mind, want to go in the other direction that your career took?
When you say that, the way you worded it, you mean you're talking about when I started
From
to singing?
Broadway to doing, more pop material.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? It was a decision I made. I started to feel like right after Hallelujah Baby, I started to feel like, well, you know what? I need to do something to really boost up my career. And it, as fate would have it, it just happened. I didn't have to aggressively go after that. It came to me.
Mm-hmm.
And how it came to me was I was in my apartment up on 97th Street in Central Park West on the 13th floor, and I get a call from someone that I knew who was staying. She was living in the next high-rise building, you know, and she said, "Freda, guess what? An old friend of yours is here, and he's in my apartment visiting, and he wants to say hello to you." I said, "Who is that?" She said, "Brian Holland." I said, "Brian?" I said, "We went to high school together." And she said, "Well, he wants to say hi." So he got on the phone and we talked. And he said, "Why don't you come on? Are you doing anything? Are you, involved in something or have to go anywhere?" I said, "No, I'm just hanging out here in the apartment." He said, "Why don't you come over? So I want to see you." So I did. And, we talked, and he said, ask me questions like, "Are you with a recording company now? Do you have a record deal?" I said, "I had a deal with ABC Paramount." And I said, "And then I did an album on Impulse, a jazz album." I said, "But they didn't pick up my option after that. So I don't have a record label." He said, "Do you have a manager?" I said, "Well, I had a manager for 5 years. I was with a guy named Joe Scandori." I said, "And now," I said, "I don't have a manager." He said, "Okay, well, we just left Motown. As a matter of fact, we're suing them." And we formed Eddie and I and Lamont, we formed our own label, and it's called Invictus Records. And by that time, they had become hugely successful. These guys, it was Lamont Dozier, who, by the way, I went to school with as well,
Oh, wow. Wow.
and Brian Holland and his brother Eddie Holland. And they had all started out with Barry Barry Gordy from the
Mhm.
very beginning, from its first inception. And they had become very well known, very famous, because they wrote and produced the major hits of the original Supremes with Diana Ross, and for Martha Reeves as well. And so they were referred to as the Golden Boys of Motown. So I guess they had little differences and
Mhm.
things happen, and they left. And so Eddie, he got Eddie on the phone, and Eddie said he was the president of Invictus, and he said, "Well, we'd like to fly you in. Would you be interested in coming in and talking business with us?" And I said, "Why, sure. Why not?" You know? So I flew into Detroit, and I stayed at my mother's house. And my mother and father, they stayed at home, and the contract, we worked it out, and I signed it. And I didn't fuss over it like I did the other contracts. I said, "I'm not going to let this happen again." And we started recording, and I signed in 68. We started recording around 69, and the first single came out. It was called The Unhooked Generation, and that was in the fall of 69. And that didn't really do what they wanted it to do. So then they put out Band of Gold. They released that in February of 1970, and that went slowly but surely up the charts, Billboard, Cashbox, Record
Mhm.
World, all the way, and it was like, and how I really, the first time I ever knew I had a huge hit on my hands, I was doing a show in Toronto, Canada, a TV special. And I was in my dressing room, and some guy, one of the production people came to the door and said, "Miss Payne, you have a call from the BBC in London. They want to talk to you." So I went in office, and the first thing the guy said, "Hello, Miss Freda Payne. This is BBC in London. How does it? I just want to ask you a question. How does it feel to have a #1 record in the UK for 6 straight weeks?" And
No idea.
I'm like, oh my God,
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to ask you, where were you the first time that you heard yourself on the radio?
I was in Detroit, and I think I was in a car, and it was on, it was like, that's me, Then
Were you
after that,
driving or were you in the passenger seat?
I was in the passenger seat.
Great.
Yeah, I was in the passenger seat, and Vandergold came on. And then what really was nice was like back when I got back to New York, and then I'd be walking down the street, and I would, you can hear people with their radios on, and I would hear my song being played, would come on, and I would like, wow, I'm something now.
Well, you certainly are. You're the soundtrack of our lives. Before we're going to run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest CD.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to ask you, with this, singing with Dee Dee Bridgewater, one of my favorite people on the planet.
Oh, I love Dee Dee.
Oh, I love her. And hearing the two of you, your voices together are so phenomenal. Johnny Mathis, so many great singers. And I know that you reached out to these singers and they came together and you've created this masterpiece. It's a different world that we're living in now as far as the way that people listen to music. And as you were putting this together, did you have an arc that you were looking at, or how did you choose the songs and the duets that are on this album, which is phenomenal? I've been listening to it all afternoon.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I have to give credit where credit is due. There was a guy who's the producer on the album. His name is Rodrigo Rios. Rodrigo Rios. He's of Italian descent, but he was born and raised in Brazil. So his parents, his father is Brazilian. I think is Brazilian, and I think his mother is Italian, or I may have it the other way around. But anyway,
he must have the most beautiful accent.
Well, he does have an accent. He says, "Freda," he says, "I want to do an album with you," that kind of thing. He's a big guy. He's tall. He's a drummer. He started coming to my shows, and then he had asked me to participate in a tribute to someone who was in Toto, Jeff Porcaro. And this was at a small little jazz club here in Hollywood called the Baked Potato. And I did that for him as a favor for him. And then I did another appearance here in LA where I did a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald. And after seeing and hearing that, he said, "You know what? I want to do an album with you." And I'm thinking, well, he's a drummer. How can he do an album? So what? So then he said, no, he says, "I'm serious." He says, "I can put this together." He said, I think you should do duets. And I'm thinking of people like Johnny Mathis and Dee Dee Bridgewater, and then Kurt Elling, and then he went on, and then we talked about it, and then I said, "Well, I know Kenny Lattimore, and I think I'd like to throw him into the mix." So we're sitting down and he picked out the songs except for the ones I did with Dee Dee. That's Moanin' and Doodlin'. I picked those, and I came up with the whole format, for how it was going to go. And then, of course, the arranger was the one who really made the magic, and that's Gordon Goodwin. Now, the fairy godfather who came in to make it happen was James Michael Getz. And Michael is the executive producer, and he also got involved in terms of, the songs as well, and, picking the songs. He and Rodrigo both sort of got involved in picking the songs, because there are a list of songs and who would sing what. And so that's how this all happened. It was, to me, I say to myself, it was all in the ethers, and it was God in the making, you know, putting and bringing all these people together, and all these elements together. And Kurt Elling was the big surprise, because, as well as Johnny Mathis, because I think it was some time ago, and I think I reached out to Johnny about doing something, and he wasn't available at the time. And I didn't know whether he would say yes or not, and he did. And the one that I was really worried about, I didn't know whether he'd say yes, because I didn't really know him personally, that is, but I knew of his work, and that was Kurt Elling.
That's
Dee Dee Bridgewater, I knew her. We knew each other. And because we both had done Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Ladies, and we know each other through the business. We knew each other through the business, and that's how it all happened.
Well, first of all, we're going to run out of time here, and I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to be respectful of the time of everyone that's here tonight. I will be promoting this CD in all of the promotions for tonight's show. The information on how you can get the CD will be right there. Everyone, please get the CD, as I said, and this is not just lip service. I listened to it all afternoon, and it is sublime. And I truly mean this. As I said at the beginning of the show, if everyone had this CD and you begin the day with the CD, you've got nothing but blue skies ahead of you. It's
that is so kind. That was very
CD.
Nice.
Before you go, a few words that I want to say to everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm sure that I can speak for Freda when I say this.
Yes.
I don't take for granted that you could have been anywhere else tonight. And the fact that you chose to be here with us means the world to me. If you enjoyed tonight's show, if this is your first time visiting my show, by all means, please subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. Tell your friends. I'm all about celebrating. I'm about celebrating artists and their body of worth. That's what I'm all about. So tell your friends, hit the like button, leave a comment, let everyone know. I always end my shows by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. You're going to get the information on how to get this CD. What I want you all to do is to order 2 copies of the CD. You're going to keep one for yourself, and you're going to send the second one to the second name that pops up in your Facebook feed. And also just reach out to those people that matter to you. As a dear friend of mine says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. But if you're going to be in that boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. Now, Freda,
I like that.
Before I leave tonight, I am actually going to leave the screen so that you've got the platform for yourself. Anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone who's watching now. And I hope I'm not putting you on the spot with what I'm about to say to you. But when your memoir comes out, I hope that you'll come back and visit me.
Oh, absolutely. I would love that.
Thank you.
I would love that.
A fan of yours. And tonight was such a great thrill for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard Skipper. And you are so gracious, and you do such a wonderful job and so professional. I know you're a theater person. I can tell by the way you talk and emote and act. I have to just say that what we're going through now, and God willing, it looks like we're slowly coming out of it. And this time it looks like it's for real. But we have to still be on our P's and Q's, and we still have to adhere to certain rules. I mean, a lot of people are starting not to wear their mask, but there are times and there are places where you should continue to wear your mask, especially if you're in a public place like a supermarket or a store. I know people are going out and having parties. Matter of fact, I'm going to a party tomorrow. So, a Memorial Day party, and there are going to be a lot of people there, and you just have to be on your P's and Q's, and be very extra careful of who you hug, and no kissies. And if you're going to be hugging, maybe you should keep on your mask. Okay, just be very discriminate as to what you do and how you do it. I'm looking forward to performing again. I probably won't be performing until maybe the early fall, like around September or something like that. And I know some people are going to be performing even before that, like July and August. And I just hope that I can come back to New York and have an appearance there and do something wonderful in one of your wonderful venues. I miss you guys. I know you miss other people that you haven't been able to let's say socialize with, and I just hope that everything can come back and we can all be happy again. I know this prolonged pandemic has caused a lot of anxiety and depression. I know that, and I've seen that, and it has resulted in some bad things happening. But just be aware and just keep your wits about you, and just go for the higher instinct, as like this title of my album, Let There Be Love. Let there be love in your life and love in your heart. Thank you.